Yo family, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video on the channel. Today we are breaking down 15 plus things that you need to know about that are going to be coming in just under a week's time with Episode Heresy. Episode Heresy, of course, is the final episode of this model of content before we hit summer, when Codename Frontiers and Codename Apollo take the game into a new era and begin a new saga. So in the video today, I'm going to be breaking down everything that we have learned from recent twids and blog posts from Bungie, as well as the official dev live stream that went on yesterday, confirming all of these different things that we can look forward to when Episode Heresy launches. So if you find this video informative or enjoy it, guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date with all Destiny content. Let me know in the comments down below what has sparked your interest, if anything. What are you looking forward to with Episode Heresy? But with all that said, let's get started. So first things first, what is going on? What is Episode Heresy all about? Now, details are still pretty scarce despite the fact that we've had a dev live stream, but we do know that we're going to be returning to the Dreadnought. Now, this in itself isn't that surprising. We've kind of known about this. It's been speculated on a lot, and this is essentially what people knew were going to be happening. It was revealed sometime last year that this was going to be the case. We just didn't know the storyline or the capacity that we would be returning to the Dreadnought in. Now, something that's pretty interesting is the fact that we thought that Xivu Arath would probably be the main sort of character line, or at least a big involvement in this, due to that being the kind of loose end that we've got from the Light and Darkness saga now. However, from the very first image that was shown in the dev live stream, you can see that actually Oryx is returning in some way, shape or form. So something to do with the Echo landing on the Dreadnought. Oryx has been brought back in a sort of spiritual form, at least. I think that's kind of what they were alluding to. So it doesn't look like, at least in the beginning, Xivu Arath is going to have any involvement. So it's going to be interesting to see how she ties in with the actual story as the Darkness and Light saga comes to a close, and like I said, we move into Frontiers. However, we will be returning to the Dreadnought, and the Bungie devs described it as a kind of mixture of an exploration space, but also where the new activity is going to be taking place. In terms of the actual story beats or early story sort of stuff that we can talk about, the devs basically said that the companions or the people that we'll be working with closely throughout Heresy, or at least in the beginning, are going to be Eris Morn and the Drifter. Obviously, Eris is kind of like the Hive specialist, so it makes sense that she'd be here. Drifter is her sort of companion nowadays, and then the other person which we're going to be working with closely is Deputy Commander Sloan. Now, obviously, Sloan in the Season of the Deep, we found out had survived on Titan due to her having taken on some taken energy or paracausality, and obviously as part of that story, we saw that she was struggling with the power of it. So the dev team said that Sloan has been learning to hold this power back, to control it and to wield it properly, and she is going to teach us to use some of this as well. In the very beginning of Heresy, there will be an event called the Path of Resolve, which is essentially Sloan teaching us how to use these paracausality powers to wield them with our light in order to sort of take on the Hive magic, etc., and use for the season against the enemies that we will face. So the activity, or the focal point for the episode itself, which will be taking place in the Dreadnought, is a new activity called the Nether, which they've said is inspired by things like the coil from Season of the Wish. And it also expands a little bit further on some of the roguelite elements that they've been trying to build into some of the activities over previous seasons. So what's new about this is we are not going to be able to regenerate health while in this activity. Instead, we are going to have an extra 300 HP health and an extra 75 shield as well. So they did mention building into support and healing for the team is going to be something which is very crucial to this activity, not something that we get forced into too much within Destiny as a game, so that might be a little bit refreshing, especially for those people who do like to play that support role. So as I mentioned, it is roguelite elements as well, so like in Season of the Deep, we are going to have different boons or different modifiers that we can choose from at certain points in the activity. On top of that, the activity is also going to be randomized, so you won't play necessarily the same way through every time. There'll be different objectives, different events that go on within the activity, which should make runs feel fresh, at least for a while. The activity is also going to be split into 3 different modes, so the devs did actually allude to the fact that there might be some secrets and things to find within the Nether activity itself, as one of the separate modes of the activity is called Nether Exploration, where you'll have additional revive tokens, less enemy density and things like that, where they said it's more of a chill experience to just go in and explore the Dreadnought and the secrets that it has to offer. So for those of you that like to search every inch of an area, there may be some hidden things for you to go in there and find. There'll then also be the normal 3-player match-made mode of Nether, where you'll play the activity as intended, and then there is on top of that an expert mode as well, which will not be match-made. In terms of runtime for the activity, it basically breaks down into 3 different bubbles, or 3 different main sort of encounters of the activity, each of which is said to take 8 to 12 minutes, though you are looking at about a 30-40 minute investment to do the entire run, where they said there will be a chest after each bubble is completed, but the best way to get the most loot is to complete the entire run through and do all 3. So as I've mentioned loot already now, let's stick with that theme, and they did show off some of what they are calling the Heretic Arsenal. Now, they showed off a couple of these, including the Adamantite, which is a new support auto rifle. So like the No Hesitation, which we got with the final shape, this is a strand variant auto rifle, and it has the same kind of function as the No Hesitation in the fact that you can hip fire and heal your allies and then get yourself a damage buff, but also this will create unraveling projectiles that almost like bind themselves onto your ally when you're healing them, and then they will cause damage and unravel when they hit enemies. So rather than, like they mentioned in the video, sticking your friend with Telesto bolts and have them running into somebody, this is the new way of doing that, so that's pretty cool in itself. So these actually come in adept versions as well, and they have likened them to the sort of shiny versions of the weapons that we got in Into the Light, in the fact that these will come with multiple perk options. They also come with multiple origin traits and something called a fragile trait, which is going to be available until the end of Heresy. So the fragile trait won't stay on the weapon permanently, but throughout episode Heresy, these are going to be additional utilities or things that make the weapon more powerful just for this particular episode. So the other one they showed is called the Psycho Pump, which is another aerial denial frame. So this will be the 3rd one added to the game. And of course, with the Ark themed episode coming up, it is going to be an Ark one. Now, interestingly, with this weapon, it had a brand new perk on it, which we got to see within the live stream. And this ties in very nicely to the new keyword they're using for Ark called Bolt Charge. So the new perk that we got to see was called Rolling Storm, which said final blows grant bolt charge, while amplified final blows grant additional bolt charge. So bolt charge essentially is when you are doing arc damage, it's going to build up a meter, then when you next use an ability, it calls down a lightning storm onto the enemy that you're shooting at, which from what we've seen in clips looks pretty powerful. And obviously this Rolling Storm perk on this new area denial frame launcher is giving you a way to get bolt charge really quickly. As we know, there are many ways to build them to amplified, and amplified itself is going to be even better this season as they are increasing the damage reduction that you get whilst you are amplified. So believe me when I say, guys, Ark is to play this season for abilities, for weapons, and for building into that damage reduction as well. So that's the couple of weapons from the Heretic Arsenal that we actually got to see. I don't know exactly how many of these there are, but they did say that a first portion of these will be available with Act 1, and then all of the rest of them will be available with Act 2. So they're not going to be releasing 2 or 3 per act as they have been in the previous 2 episodes. After Act 2 launches, we will have all of the Heretic Arsenal available to us at once. And they also mentioned that they've been listening to fan feedback about target farming and about how the tonics were a big miss. So they basically said there's going to be something called the Tome of Want, which I think seems a little bit like how you can attune to a weapon for Onslaught. So you'll be able to pick a weapon that you're going after and have a larger chance of dropping that weapon from the activity, which is pretty cool if it's as simple as it sounds. Now, I would assume that we are going to be getting at least 1 new exotic armor piece per class, but they didn't actually mention this, so we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case or not. However, they did mention a couple of really interesting exotic weapons. Now, the first one of these is a strand exotic submachine gun called Barrow Dyad, and this is honestly one of the coolest, craziest looking exotics I've ever actually seen in Destiny 1 or 2. Super excited to get my hands on this because it looks really, really good. Now, they didn't actually say how you get hold of this because they said that they're are a lot of secrets that it has. One of the devs said, is there going to be, you know, catalysts and intrinsic things to upgrade on this? And they responded that there was just a lot of secrets about this weapon. So we don't exactly know if this is going to come from some kind of exotic mission or something, or maybe from the actual Nether activity itself in some way. Don't actually know. But yeah, it looks really cool. So it's a Strand SMG which reloads itself actually really quickly. If you watch the gameplay footage, the ammo goes back up so quickly. It has a weapon perk called Taken Divergence. It says hitting 3 targets generates a large amount of blight. Blighted seekers bore through targets. And then its intrinsic trait is Panic Response. The weapon generates blight as it deals damage. While not firing, blight depletes and the magazine is gradually refilled. Reload the weapon to convert stored blight into blighted seekers. So this weapon looks really cool, guys. Like the actual effects of it, the fact that ammo is replenishing itself really quickly, it looks awesome. They did confirm, even though it looks like it and obviously its behavior sound like it, this is not actually a new weapon of sorrow. What they said was it's a fossilized precursor to a weapon of sorrow. So it's not actually in the same set as things such as your necrochasms and your things like that. But nevertheless, it is a very, very cool weapon. They then also showed us what is going to be the season pass exotic for the season as well. So obviously you'll be able to pick this up straight away on day 1. And this is called Lodestar, which is an exotic trace rifle. And for the first time ever, this trace rifle takes primary ammo and belongs to the Arc Affinity. So its weapon perk is called Arc Alignment. It says dealing arc damage from any source aligns the battery's coils. When alignment is complete, press to disengage the safety and enable hip-fired Starlight Beam to apply jolt to any targets damaged for a short time. Aim down sights to slow the rate at which the battery drains. And then its intrinsic trait, Starlight Beam, says this weapon fires a low-intensity arc beam with enhanced stability and accuracy. So despite the fact that this is a trace rifle, it actually fires more in the sense of a burst pulse rifle. So it kind of does like a little chunk of beam, then a little pause, and then it carries on. So it's almost like a burst beam. And obviously this is pretty interesting. We've never had anything like this before, but also that arc alignment perk is fantastic because you're just going to be able to spray a bunch of jolt out onto enemies, which is fantastic as well. So this is a really interesting weapon. It looks really cool as well. So this one is definitely a super interesting one to try out. So whilst we're still on the subject of loot, we might as well continue down that path. We also know a couple of the Reprised Weapons sets that are coming out. We have the Whispering Slab, which is of course the bow, and then we have the Cold Denial Pulse Rifle. Very, very good pulse rifle for PvP. They did say that they're coming back with reworked perk options as well. Not sure how many more weapons from that set there is, or whether there are a couple from different sets, but they're the only ones we've seen so far. And they did say that the Reprised Weapons will be available from day 1 when Heresy goes live as well. There's also a big shakeup coming in the sense that Vault of Glass weapons are now about to become craftable. So yeah, we'll once again be able to hop into Vault of Glass and take on Atheon, and we'll be able to now craft things such as fan favourites like the Fatebringer, the Hezen Vengeance, the Found Verdict. All of these things are going to be craftable once you've got enough deep sight versions available to you, and they're also going to come with a brand new trait. Time Loss Magazine says that final blows with a weapon grants bonus super energy. When the super expires, this weapon's magazine size is doubled for a long duration and reloads from reserves. For boss damage rotation, guys, this is going to go absolutely crazy. So you're going to build super energy whilst you're clearing ads with the weapon. Then once you've used that super, you're going to have a doubled magazine size for a long duration, and it's going to reload from reserves. So if you turned your nose up when you heard craftable weapons because you've already got good god rolls sat in your vault, well, it's definitely going to be time to jump back in and replace them. But with that said, it's not only Vault of Glass weapons and Reprised weapons that are getting changes. For Heresy, Bungie are also buffing over 39 different exotics. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them in this video because we'll be here until Heresy starts, but to call out, there is for Hunter, Sealed Ahamkara Grasps, Wise Invest, which are going to be getting pretty significant changes. For the Titan, Eternal Warrior, Kepri's Horn, Insurmountable School Fort, again, will also be seeing large updates. For the Warlock, Geomag Stabilizers might be making a return to glory, as well as some pretty significant changes to Verity's Brow and a nerf to the Healing Helmet in Speaker's Sight. On top of this, there's also weapon changes such as the Darcy exotic heavy sniper rifle actually might be coming finally good. This is essentially becoming a Galahorn version of a sniper rifle where you can get damage buffs for your teammates for other legendary snipers. So again, very good changes there. There's also buffs across the board for some archetypes such as Scout Rifle getting 15% buffs and 30% buffs versus miners and mages respectively. A flat 10% buff to auto rifles for miners and mages. SMGs will be getting a 5% buff, a 20% buff for trace rifles, and then a 10% buff for linear fusion rifles. The exotic glaives are also getting a big rework, adding the verbs to them from different elements such as incandescent. And there are several more adjustments to different armor and weapon types as well, which I'll pin down in the comment below if you want to read through the full list. For the first time in quite a while as well, we'll also be getting a new aspect for each of the 3 classes. 2 of these playing into Arc, and the Hunters is a Void one. So for the Titan, we have Storm's Keep, which allows you to create bolt charge stacks whenever you use your class ability. Anybody who's standing behind your barricade also gains stacks over time, with these being automatically discharged at max stacks to deal additional damage. So it's been a while since Rally Barricade has been properly utilized in a team setting, guys, but I can honestly see Titans with this aspect setting up for damage phases in future. For the Warlock, we have Ionic Sentry, which says defeating targets with kinetic or arc weapons or arc abilities, charge up an arc turret that periodically chains lightning between nearby targets, granting a stack of bolt charge with each hit. So this works a lot like Gunpowder Gamble for the Solar Hunter. This is going to build up over time whilst you are getting those kinetic arc kills and arc abilities. Then you're going to throw out this sentry, which is going to blind on impact, and then is going to chain lightning between enemies. So this one is going to be awesome for ad clear, and there's going to be a lot of great Warlock builds which you can make coming up in Heresy. Weirdly enough though, the Hunter did not get a new arc aspect, and instead, as a standout from the other 2, actually got a new Void one called On the Prowl. This says entering invisibility marks nearby combatants as a priority target for you and your team. Defeating priority targets creates a weakening cloud of smoke that makes you and allies invisible when passing through it. When priority targets are defeated, you and nearby allies gain increased weapon reload speed and stability for a short duration, and are granted grenade, melee, and class ability energy. So obviously it'll be nice to see some values on what these bring. This is going to be something I think that you'll probably pair with the Omnioculus chest piece if you were just going for that super sneaky, sly kind of carry build almost for GMs, which a lot of people, including myself, use. Otherwise, there's not too much utility to this other than trying to skip certain areas and things like that. Obviously, the ability regen is nice and the weakening is nice, but I don't know how much this is going to get used reliably, you know, in a lot of situations universally. I think this is going to be quite niche. Maybe things like the Lightblade GM, stuff like that, this would be very good. But honestly, I think Hunters have been done a little bit dirty here, and the Arc ones for Titan and Warlock are much more interesting in terms of upcoming builds. Speaking of build, guys, you are going to want to start doing some theory crafting or some preparation, because we have a brand new dungeon going live on the 7th of February at reset time called Sundered Doctrine. Now, Heresy only goes live 3 days earlier than that on Tuesday the 4th of February, so it doesn't give you very long to mess around with new builds, the new artifact and all that kind of stuff before you'll be thrown into another contest mode dungeon. So Sundered Doctrine is the new dungeon. We do not know too much about it yet, other than of course when it goes live and on what date, and we also know that it's going to take part in the Throne World on part of Rogue Ship, but that is all the details we have. Now, if it's anything like the Vespers host contest mode, it's going to be a real challenge, so you may want to get to work on putting some of those builds together or theory crafting right now, because it's going to put things to the test, let me assure you of that much. So moving on from there, it wouldn't be a complete guide to the new changes for Heresy if I didn't mention PvP. There are some massive changes coming to PvP. Again, there is a full PvP sandbox team article, which I'll leave pinned in the comment below for you to read through. Essentially, they are making big changes to matchmaking. They are reworking the way that comp is scored and ranks are done. So there's some big changes coming to that as well. Trials of Osiris is getting a massive rework with some new weapons, a full new set of armor and cosmetics, and for the first time ever, people will be able to go to the lighthouse without getting 7 wins in a row. So they are now moving to a system which relies more on win streaks, but you can go to the lighthouse just by getting 7 wins on a card, regardless of how many losses it takes you to get those 7 wins. So everything's going to work on a chance basis. So depending on the win streak that you can put together, if you get 7 wins on a card and you had, I don't know, a 4 or 5 win streak or whatever the case may be, it improves your chances of getting adept loot from the chest and the other rewards as well. As I said, that is a very baseline overview because we could spend the full video just talking about this, but if you want to read the full article of changes, I'll leave that pinned down in the comments below. But it's not just Trials of Osiris that's getting new gear, we also have brand new gear coming to all playlist activities. So for Nightfalls, we will have Lotus Eater, a Void Rocket assisted sidearm, completing the set of having all elements of rocket sidearms available, and the fan favourite Palindrome will be returning as an arc adaptive hand cannon. For Vanguard Ops, we'll have Cynosia, a strand aggressive rocket launcher. Gambit will see the addition of a new arc rapid fire glaive called Backfang. Crucible is getting a new Void heavy burst pulse rifle called Joxer's Longsword, as well as a ton of new world loot pool weapons which will be added in as well. So finally, for the video today, guys, I'm pretty sure by now, if you keep up to date with any Destiny news, you'll have already seen this, but the new collaboration for Bungie and Destiny as a game for episode Heresy is actually with Star Wars. So Hunter, Warlock and Titan will all be getting Star Wars themed armor sets, which I'm assuming you'll be able to buy for silver on day 1 of Heresy when they come out. Honestly, guys, these look amazing. The Titan as a Stormtrooper is fantastic, and the Warlock one just looks absolutely incredible. And on top of this, there also is a Death Star Ghost Shell, which actually has the beam coming out the front of it, which again looks amazing. There is also finishers, emotes, ships and sparrows coming as well, which we didn't get to see. But in terms of getting out the credit card, guys, this is probably one that I'm going to have to whip it out for, if you know what I'm saying. So guys, that brings me to the end of the video. I know it was a long one. I hope that the timestamps did help out with that if you wanted to skip a few things that you already knew about, but I just wanted to do one comprehensive video covering all the changes that we know about and things that will be available to us in Heresy. If you are still here at this point, absolute legend. It goes a long way to helping me out by watching the video out till the end. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel, and let me know down in the comments below what you are excited for with Heresy. But for now, guys, take care of yourselves and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye.